Hey everyone, today we are going to make some banana bread from scratch. This is a fantastic way to use up overripe bananas that are too far gone for fresh eating. This is an easy recipe that is way more nutritious than anything you're going to find from a box mix in a store. I replaced half of the sugar with maple syrup to make it a little bit healthier. And if you want to, you could use maple syrup or honey as your only sweetener if you want to make it completely free of refined sugars. If you do that, please let us know down in the comments how it turns out so that other people can benefit from your experience as well. So let's get started. So we're getting ready to make banana bread, and these are all the ingredients and the tools we're going to use. So I just use a hand mixer for this because it's easier. You can use a stand mixer or even just a fork or spatula or something to mix it. Got some measuring cups and spoons. We're just going to use regular all-purpose wheat flour. I have some brown sugar, some salt, baking powder, active dry yeast, 2 overripe bananas, apple cider vinegar. If you don't have this, you can use lemon juice as well. You can substitute either one. So either fresh lemon juice or apple cider vinegar, some vanilla extract, some oil. This is olive oil. You can use any kind of oil you want. Some maple syrup, and then we have a couple bowls and a pitcher. And that's all we need. We're gonna get started and get to it. First, I'm just combining the dry ingredients. It's 3 cups of flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I will also add 1 tablespoon of cinnamon later on that I forgot to add at this point. And by the way, I will put this full recipe down in the description box for you, along with links to some of the products you see me using here today. So make sure you check those out before you move on to another video. So I'm just gonna stir this all together and then we'll move on to the wet ingredients. I'm starting by peeling and mashing up these 2 bananas, and these were really overripe, so they were very soft and perfect for banana bread. And then I'm gonna use 2 of our farm fresh eggs. And let me tell you, farm fresh eggs, there is nothing better. I don't know if you guys have had them or not, but especially my chickens. My chickens are very spoiled. They get tons of extra nutrition that you do not get in a grocery store egg, and you can taste the difference, but it's also so much healthier for you with all kinds of extra omega-3 fats and just really good nutrition and protein and everything. So if you can get farm fresh eggs, I highly recommend that. This is just the olive oil going in. So we're doing 1/4 cup of olive oil, and then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. And we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. At this point, I'm gonna add in the brown sugar. You will see, I don't use brown sugar that often. I don't really bake very often, so this was a little bit hard and crunchy, and you will see as I start to mix this all together, I realized there were big hard chunks in there that I had to break up with a fork, so you'll see that in a minute. But now I'm getting the yeast mixture ready. Now you need warm water for this. You don't want it to be super hot, but you want it to be warm to the touch so that it will activate the yeast. And you want to add the maple syrup to the water. So it's 1.5 cups of warm water and 1/4 cup of maple syrup that went in there with 1 packet of yeast. And like I said before, I forgot the cinnamon, so I just remembered at this point to throw it in. I'm just adding that into the dry ingredients there. Now I set that yeast mixture off to the side. I have the oven preheating to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And as the oven's preheating, I like to set that yeast mixture on top of the oven where it stays warm as it's preheating. And you just give it maybe like 5 minutes or so, and you'll see that it'll start to proof and it'll look like foamy, and that's how you know that it's ready. And like I said, here's me just trying to break up that brown sugar so it's not all in one big clump. So I'll just give this a quick mix with the mixer, and then I'm gonna show you this hack that is a money-saving hack that you'll see me do sometimes on my channel. But when I have a stick of butter and I use the whole stick up, a lot of times on the wrapper there is still like a little bit of butter stuck to the wrapper, it is the perfect amount of butter to grease a pan with. So instead of buying those expensive aerosol sprays, just save the wrapper from your butter and use that to grease your pans. It'll save you a ton of money. So this is a 9 by 5 inch standard size bread pan. It is a non-stick pan, but I like to grease it as well just to make sure the bread doesn't get stuck in there. So now I'm just taking the yeast mixture and I'm adding it to the wet ingredients. And I'm gonna stir these together before I add the dry ingredients, because once you add the dry ingredients, you really don't wanna over mix it. So you wanna make sure everything else is mixed up really well before you put the dry ingredients in. And that way you won't end up with a bad texture with your bread. So I have another little hack when you're mixing with the dry ingredients on top. I actually use the mixer without turning it on. I just mix up the dry ingredients until it gets to the point where it's not gonna make a big poof cloud when I turn it on. And so once it's combined a little bit, then I'll turn the mixer on and finish combining it. And also you wanna make sure you do stop one time in the middle to scrape down the bowl and make sure you get all of that like baking powder and flour and everything off the sides of the bowl to make sure it's really well combined. So now it's time to throw it in the pan. Now ovens all vary as far as time and temperature, so you do want to just keep an eye on it, but in general you want to bake this at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 40 to 45 minutes. You want to stick a toothpick in it to make sure it's done in the middle before you take it out, but generally that's the time frame where that happens for me. So then to get it out of the pan, I take a silicone spatula so I don't scratch my nonstick pan, and I just stick it down all the way around all four sides just to loosen the bread a little bit, and then the bread just falls right out. And so it's real easy to remove that way. I'll link those pans for you because they're amazing. They're really, really nice nonstick pans, so I like them a lot. But this is the finished product, and we're just gonna slice it up and serve it with our dinner tonight. I forgot to mention earlier, you do want to let the bread pan sit out on the stove for at least 10 minutes before you try to get it out of the pan. And then once you take it out, leave it on a wire rack to cool until it's completely cool before you try to slice it. If you try to slice it when it's still hot, it's just gonna like fall apart in the middle. It's gonna turn to mush. It'll be hard to slice. So make sure you let it cool down all the way. I know it's hard to wait, but do it, trust me. And you will end up with this soft, delicious, moist banana bread that has just the right amount of sweetness, and my family loves it. If you are not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe and like this video. Subscriptions are free, doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps me out. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me today, and I am looking forward to seeing you in my next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.